If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard in Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place.
Wrestling Podcast. As always, doing a solo tonight is Dan, the one and only. And joining me here this evening, the man who said only a man with two hands has a fighting chance, Mr. James Ellsworth. How you doing here?
Good, man. How about you guys? Where you guys at? Where are you located right now? Everything okay over there?
Right now, I am located in Waterbury, in Connecticut, I should say. So, there is five of us. Usually consists of me, the Professor Rick Del Santo, who's also in Connecticut. We have the DVD Freak based off of Pennsylvania, Andy, the Greenport Destroyer, up in North Carolina, and then our boy JJ Sins up in Chicago. So, speaking of the pandemic, how have you been holding up these past 9 to 10 months?
Yeah, man, it's crazy. It's already been 10 months. I have been living life the way I've always lived life, to the best of the ability of which I can, which means I'll still go to restaurants. I'll still travel. I'll do everything. I take precautions, and I follow all the rules and guidelines, but I try to keep it as normal as possible.
Yeah. And that's all that matters. And, going through these hard situations, within the past month, unfortunately, not COVID related, but we did lose John Huber, also known as Luke Harper in the WWE. How are you aware of his passing, and do you have any fond memories from him during your time in WWE?
Oh, yeah, man. I said a couple of times publicly that John was my favorite person to be around at WWE, and I've said that numerous times because he was just so much fun to be around, so funny, made you feel right at home. Like, there'd be times where we'd be in the UK for 2 or 3 week tours, or Japan or wherever, and, you're away from your family for half a month or more, and, guys like him, and especially him, just, make it fun. Like, just never, he was never negative. He was always positive, always fun, always joking around. And yeah, I found out about his death just like everybody else when it got announced on the internet. And like, I at first I was reading, I was like, this can't be real. And I noticed it was from like the AEW Twitter. I was like, whoa, this is real. And I just, it sucks, man. Like, I got to know him pretty good there when I was at WWE, because I was usually on all the house shows. He was usually on all the house shows. So I'd see him, 4 days a week, 3 house shows, and then every TV. And then when we would go on tour, I'd be on tour with him for 2 or 3 weeks. And he's just a great guy, family guy. Always talked about his family and how much he missed them and loved them when we were on the road. And again, I can't stress enough just how fun of a guy he was to be around.
Yeah, and you know what? It's so unfortunate, especially coming from a guy his age, who just died at the age of 41, just 10 days shy from his birthday. And, he seemed like a healthy guy. And, during my days of growing up in wrestling, a lot of guys who, passed away throughout the years either died from addiction, taking their own life, or, some type of freak accident. But the fact that Huber was away from AEW for 2 months, not knowing of the circumstance of his condition, and then all of a sudden just passing away the day after Christmas, just took me by surprise.
Me too. I mean, I don't know what the situation is. Obviously, the family wants to keep it private, and you got to respect their wishes. They're going through, I couldn't imagine what they're going through, and it's, whatever happened, that's very unfortunate. It's very sad. It's tragic, and he's 41 years old, full of life, and with half his life ahead of him, and beautiful family, a wife, 2 kids, and just the respect of all of his peers. He's like one of those guys that everybody liked. No one had a bad word to say about him, and it showed when he passed. Everybody just being so positive about him because, again, he was just so fun to be around. And yeah, man, I don't know what caused it. You hear things of a lung, something with his lung. Who knows? But it's none of our business, really. It'll come out eventually, I think. But you got to respect the family's wishes and move on. It's sad. It's unfortunate, and I really feel bad for his wife and kids. It's such a terrible, terrible thing.
Right. Absolutely. So anyway, let's move on to more positive things here. Rest in peace to John Hubert. So
I'm standing here with James Ellsworth, and James, no offense, but what in God's name are you thinking stepping into the ring with a monster like Braun Strowman?
What am I thinking? Having a match on Raw is a dream come true for me. I didn't know it was going to be against Braun Strowman, so yes, I'm nervous. Yes, I'm scared. But if I could somehow, some way, pull off the upset, because I truly believe any man with 2 hands has a fighting chance, I can only imagine what that may do for my career.
Well, hopefully you still have a career after tonight's match, but good luck, man.
So, let's talk about your career a little bit. You were born in Baltimore, Maryland, as I can see with the Baltimore Ravens jersey you have here.
Purple Friday here in Baltimore.
There you go. So, when you were growing up in Baltimore, was there any specific wrestling organization that drew you, probably without the likes of like WWE or some mainstream wrestling promotion?
Well, when I was very young, man, at 4 or 5 years old, I started watching WWF and NWA, and very fortunate here in Baltimore. They would come to the Baltimore Arena, like NWA would come 6 times a year and WWF would come 6 times a year. It felt like, and so there'd be wrestling every month at the arena. And I just, I fell in love with it right away. Like on the WWF side, Randy Savage, Ultimate Warrior, Rick Rude, Mr. Perfect all caught my eye right away at 4 or 5 years old. Then on the NWA side, the Rock and Roll Express and the Horsemen caught my eye right away. And, I was just hooked ever since I was 4 or 5 years old.
Oops. Hey, you know what? Those are the good old days. Now, when it came to watching wrestling, what gave you that consideration, just one day saying, hey, this is what I want to do for a living. This is what I want to pursue. What sparked that interest?
Again, I like 4 or 5 years old. I think I wanted to do it right away. It just looked like so much fun. And I just, the art form of it and just like everything that goes on with it, like the showmanship, the gimmicks, the crowd. Like I fell in love with it right away. I can't remember not wanting to do it. I've always wanted to do it. And I just had tunnel vision from a very young age. This is what I want to do. And I remember like in first grade, you had to dress up of what you wanted to be when you grew up. And I dressed up as the Ultimate Warrior. I was like, I want to be a wrestler. And it's back then I was small for a first grader. I was the smallest kid in my class and all. And they're like, oh, well, wrestlers are big. And I'm like, yeah, well, that's what I want to be.
Hey, there you go. And you ended up staying with the independent scene for the first 14 years of your wrestling career before jumping to WWE. Prior to your journey, you were trained by ECW legend or alumni, I should say, Axel Rotten. What was it like being trained under his tutelage? And what was a piece of advice that he gave you that you bring with you to this day, whether it's verbally or just like a mental thought?
Man, well, yeah, I was very lucky and fortunate to get trained by him. Obviously, he's known to be the hardcore guy, one of the hardcore guys, but he had a very good mind for the wrestling business, and he wrestled in the early 90s. He was wrestling for Lawler, USWA, and Memphis, and he traveled the world. The hardcore stuff's what got him over, but he really had a just tremendous mind about the business. You can find interviews from guys like Raven, Paul Heyman talking about how smart Axel was about the wrestling business. Now, man, I always take this with me. I remember it was like 2012 or 13. We're in a car ride together. We just did an independent wrestling show, and we wrestled each other. And, I cut a promo on him before the match, and he really liked it. And I remember after the match, he's like, man, I really liked your promo. He's like, it was really good. And, he's like, you always cut a good promo, but tonight you did a really good job. And we get in the car, and we're driving. He goes, man, if the right person just saw you cut a promo and the way you tell stories on the mic, and if the right person saw you, you'd probably wind up somewhere and get a job. And he's like, that's how good you are at that aspect. And I was like, oh man, cool, thank you. Like, I didn't think anything of it, but it's weird because it's exactly what happened. It's so weird that he just saw that. I don't know.
Now, when it came to your mic skills, was Axel Rotten one of those guys who contributed your help when it came to mic skills, or was it just instant?
Well, it's weird in my humbled opinion. Like, charisma and mic skills and promos and all that, you either got it or you don't. You could be told what to say, which is not always a good idea. You could be told what the bullet points are of a promo, like, who you are, what you're doing here, who you're fighting, what they're about, what you're going to do to them, and where you're going to do it at. And, like, those are the bullet points. You can tell people the bullet points, but it's up to the individual, the performer, to go out there and just feel the crowd, and you give the crowd what you feel what they want. And every crowd's different. Every crowd, and you got to feel them out. And I don't know. It's like, to me, that's the easy part of wrestling. Just me personally. Like, if you're a bad guy, you go out there and you say terrible things. And if you're a good guy, you go out there and you say things that the crowd wants to hear and to make them react. And I don't know. To me, it just I laugh because I don't think it's hard, but for some people, it is hard. And I don't know. I'm just very fortunate that I do understand that aspect, because being 5'8" and 170 pounds, I really didn't have much of a chance if I didn't know how to do that.
Right. Yeah, you know what? And I was very convinced, a couple of years ago, you came in as an enhancement talent. The first Raw, I believe it was right after the brand split in 2016. And you just cut that promo. Any man with two hands has a fighting chance. And I'm just sitting there like, the man has a point. He really does. So, yeah, I was very convinced by your promos by the start.
Facial expressions that go with the promo when you're saying stuff, like Strowman's walking to the ring as they're giving me the promo, and I'm like acting scared. I'm like, I'm scared, and I know I probably don't have much of a chance, but any man with two hands has a fighting chance. That maybe if I could upset him, I could just imagine what that could do for my career. And like, just such a good, I don't know, man. It was just the perfect thing. And going back to what Axel said, if the right person and the right person just happened to be Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon was the one that saw something in me right away, and like, it's just what a ride I got taken on after that promo with Strowman.
And you talk about facial expressions. How did you feel to have your face, not only your face but your expression, printed out on an official WWE T-shirt?
Oh man, it's amazing. Like, I didn't even like the shirt at first. I'm like, because I've been a wrestling fan my whole life, and I'm like, this is the shirt they gave me. What the? And then I was like, oh, well, this is the point. It's goofy, and it fits the James Ellsworth character. When I started wearing it, I was like, this is perfect. They came up with a great idea. And, dude, it was so cool to see that when they started telling me that it was the #1 seller and stuff like that. I was like, what? Like, you got Roman Reigns T-shirts, Goldberg T-shirts, John Cena T-shirts, and mine is outselling all these guys right now. I don't care if it's for 2-3 weeks or whatever it was. That's, like, mind-boggling for me that my shirt went out so theirs at any time in the history of the world. So it was cool.
Hey, that's awesome. And going back to Axel Rotten, when you were getting trained, was there anybody in your class or during your course of training that fans may be familiar with nowadays?
Oh, that's a good question. Like, not my particular class. But when I was training, like, Mickie James would come up to the school when she was Alexis Lurie before she got her break. Joey Matthews would come up to our school before he got his break as Joey Mercury of M&M, the tag team. So, people like that. There's a referee on WWE, Derek Moore, he referees there still. So he was a part of my class. So he referees on Raw. Did Derek Moore, if anybody wants to look that up. But yeah, not my particular class. No, just I somehow was the only one. It's again just crazy to think about.
Right. So, getting into your independent career, you started off as Pretty Jimmy Dream. You ended up being in a tag team with Adam Ugly, known as Pretty Ugly. You wrestled throughout American Combat, Big Time Wrestling, and First State Championship Wrestling. How was those first few years of experience like breaking into the independent scene?
Well, yeah, the first few years I didn't really do much. I wasn't with Adam yet, with Pretty Ugly. So the first few years you just try to figure everything out. There's so much to learn. You never stop learning. And I was lost the first few years. Like I started wrestling in 2002, and I had my first match in 2003. And from there, for the first, I'd say 6-7 years, I was just trying to figure something out. And the idea came where Adam and I, who were best friends in high school, we trained together to do the Pretty Ugly thing. It was a gimmick before its time. You had Pretty Jimmy, Adam Ugly, Pretty Ugly. Me, I had like long hair, and I try to act like a pretty boy, which obviously I'm not. So that's the heat of it. And then Adam Ugly's chunky guy picking his nose, coming out with a toilet seat. It was a really cool gimmick. And I feel like if we tried a little harder with it, we could have probably got a break somewhere because the gimmick was so good. But we were just doing indie shows and not really the top indie shows that we should have probably went to and gave it a try. We were just waiting on somebody to call us or something. And that's not how you do it. You got to knock on the door yourself. Nobody's going to knock on your door. You have to go knock on theirs.
Yep. And you know what? And I feel like it's all about dedication as well. Do you still keep in touch with Adam Ugly?
On a daily basis. Yeah, man, we've been best friends since we were in high school, 13 years old and freshmen in ninth grade. So we've known each other for over 22 years now, 21, 22 years. And we talk almost on a daily basis.
And now Jimmy Dream in there.
I don't know if this is such a good idea.
Apparently not.
Further into your wrestling career, 2006, you made your debut for CZW. You were part of the Tournament of Death 5 match as you were teaming up with Drew Gulak, which something I wasn't familiar with. How was it like teaming up with Drew Gulak? And I'm pretty sure, I want to assume that he was one of the guys who was pretty happy to see you when you got called up.
Yeah, man, it was like when I first got there, it was so cool because Drew, who I knew from the Indies, nice guy, I'm happy that he's still there. And Rich Swann, Rich Swann's from Baltimore as well. And we'd all be in the WWE locker room, like looking at each other. You got to understand, like 2006, 7, 8, 9, I think Rich Swann got in around 2009, 2010. We were all, Rich and I being both from Baltimore and Drew Gulak being from Philly, we would see each other all the time at indie shows, wrestle each other. Well, I've wrestled Drew in the indies, tagged with him. So it was really cool for us all to see each other at WWE going, wow, like we're here and we're all small guys. Drew's got some size on him now, but Rich Schwad's one of the most athletic, best wrestlers in the world. I mean, he's very underrated. He's the Impact World Champion right now, and he should be. He's just very athletic and very gifted in the ring, and very entertaining on top of all that. So yeah, it was cool for us all to see each other there, man. We really got a kick out of it.
Right. And being a part of CZW, how long were you a part of CZW? Because it doesn't really seem like you were there that long.
No. I mean, it wasn't my thing, man. Like they were very popular in that era, 2000, mid 2000s, and wrestler by the name of Ruckus. Which, if anybody listening to this doesn't know who Ruckus is, look up Ruckus. He's one of the best wrestlers I've ever seen in my life that didn't get a break in WWE. He's just amazing. So he's from Baltimore, and I would travel with him to some shows, and sometimes I'd get on, and sometimes I wouldn't. Fortunately, that time, he got me on, and I was wrestling with him, Drew Gulak and I, against him and Robbie Marino. So yeah, that's the nature of the business. Sometimes you get on, sometimes you don't. You got to hop in the car and you got to you got to go knocking on people's doors. They're not knocking on yours.
Right. And I do recall Ruckus. I know he was mainly involved with like backyard wrestling, hardcore wrestling. Is that another guy that you've been in touch with within the past couple years?
Yeah, man. Like my friends are my friends. So Ruckus, I've been friends with since the early 2000s. He lives in Baltimore as well, 15 minutes from me. And yeah, I keep in touch with him on a weekly basis. He's awesome, man. He doesn't wrestle as much anymore. Like we do some tag stuff here and there when we can. Because I run my own promotion, Adrenaline Championship Wrestling, and I do some stuff with him there. And right now we're not allowed to run shows in Maryland. The commission has, due to the pandemic, as I like to call it, is not allowing us to run. But yeah, he still does some things. But he's a little older now. He's in his 40s, and his style of wrestling it tears your body up, and he doesn't do as much. But he is one of the best wrestlers I've ever seen in my life, and I wish he would have got a break one day. Because he's that talented.
And you spoke of your own promotion, Adrenaline Championship Wrestling, which you founded back in 2009. What made you come up with running your own promotion?
Well, I didn't. I wasn't the founder of it in 2009. This guy by the name of Christopher Adonis was his name. Not the Masterpiece Chris Masters was another one. And he founded it. We started working for him, whatever. And he had me start helping him book the shows. And they were doing real well, and he was going through some things, and he wound up selling me the company, and I just ran it from there. I was probably like 2012ish, and yeah, it's been doing well, man. I kind of keep it low key, but it's I don't really have it on Twitch yet or have a big internet following yet. I haven't tried that. I keep it low key, but our last show we did was February of last year, had almost 800 people in the crowd, which is a really good crowd for an independent show these days. And I was going to start getting it, I was going to start trying to get it known a little more on, social media and other outlets before the pandemic I always say pandemic hit. And when it comes back, man, I'm really going to try to push it hard for sure.
And you spoke about your last show back in February. You were actually in Goldberg's retirement match. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep. Him and I, at his retirement match, not ours.
His retirement match.
Yeah, I'm not ready yet. Maybe another 6-7 years. But yeah, he picked me to be his opponent because he's known me my whole career, since I was 9 years old, actually. And I mean, it was fun, man. It was such a just memorable night, and it was 2 weeks before COVID hit and everything shut down. So luckily, we got it in before the world fell apart. But Dwayne's a good friend of mine. He recently just had a heart attack. He's doing better, but he, did construction for a living. Yeah, he was only in WWE for a brief time. And back in like me, I was very fortunate to have my run where I was on all the house shows, all the pay-per-views, and all that. When he was there, he was just a television character. They would bring in as Gilbert, so he didn't get to do all the house shows and tours and all that. So he didn't make as much money because I think people have this mystique of, if you're in WWE, you're a millionaire automatically. Like it just depends on what you do while you're there. And I was very fortunate because I had T-shirts and action figures and all that. But he had a heart attack. Probably 9 months, 10 months after our match, but he's doing a lot better now. And hopefully he'll figure out what he's going to do at his later stages of life because he's 62 years old now. So. Hopefully he winds up being okay.
Well, I'm hoping he's doing okay. I'm glad he wasn't one of the fallen brothers of 2020. But yeah, Gilbert here, longest reigning light heavyweight champion back in the Attitude Era days.
Yeah.
What was the point of even putting the belt on that guy if you're not even going to take it as a serious contention?
I don't know. I think they put the title on him because Goldberg had a title, so they had to, you know what I mean? They were just Goldberg. And Dwayne's a great guy, man. And I wish they would have did a little more with it. But it was fun. It was funny. Like Goldberg would win all his matches, and Gilbert wouldn't. Gilbert won the light heavyweight title, but most of his matches were matches he would have non-title and lose on television until he finally lost the title to S.A. Rios. But, but people still remember the Gilbert character because it was great. It was great, man. It was so, nobody really remembers the NWO Sting because it wasn't as cool. You know what I mean? But people remember Gilbert. He played that character well. He came out. It was fun. I was hoping they'd have him, come back and be like a fake Steve Austin when Steve Austin left WWE, there in the early 2000s. I was like, man, maybe they'll bring back Gilbert, but have him be like my mock Stone Cold or something. But Dwayne's an entertaining guy, and he played the character well. And then to this day, people still remember that character.
So you finally get a chance to be a part of the WWE family, sort of say. Back when WWE, I guess when they were in your area in Baltimore, you used to be a Rosebud for Adam Rose.
Yeah, man. So if you're an independent talent and you're not doing much, you can sign up as an extra anytime they come near you, and they'll do whatever with you. You might get a squash match. You might be a Rosebud. You might be fake security. You might be a fake doctor. You could be a guy selling popcorn in the stands. You're an extra. You're not really important to them. It's just whatever they need for their television show that day. They don't pick the best ones. They don't, this guy's the best wrestler here. Let's use him. That's not how it works. It's what they need for that particular spot. And usually when you do a squash match, it's because you're small and you make their guy look like such a superstar. So that's how it is. And anytime they would come, I would do that just to get a feel of being at WWE and all that. Never in a million years did I think I would get signed off of it, but I'm very happy that it happened.
Right. So who made the decision initially? So after your match with Braun Strowman, that episode of Monday Night Raw, who was it that came up to you and said, hey, we want to sign you to a contract?
Vince McMahon. It was him, man. He just saw something in me after that. And, man, I see a lot of former talent and all mocking Vince for talking about how bad it. Dude, this guy paid us hundreds of thousands of dollars. We traveled the world on his dime, and he made action figures and T-shirts of us. I don't care how it ended. I owe that guy a lot, man. He changed my life. And so if he doesn't feel like I should be there right now, I'll agree with him. I lived my dream because he saw something in me, and that's something I will never forget.
Yeah. Hey, there you go. And that must have been an intimidating moment right there.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was when they said he wanted to see me. I thought I was in trouble. I thought he was mad at me for something. I was like, what did I do wrong? Oh my God, I'm never going to be doing anything in WWE ever again. And he just said, hey, great job out there. I'm going to be in touch with you. I'm going to hire you. I'm like, what? So he brought me back a few weeks later just to feel me out to see how many years he was going to give me and how much money he was going to give me and all. But he kept his word.
This is getting bad. It's uncomfortable.
It should be uncomfortable. Ellsworth had no business being in there. What? Wait.
Referee called for the bell.
What happened?
No.
He just disqualified AJ Styles.
Ladies and gentlemen, the loser of this match, AJ Styles.
What?
So that means the winner of this match by disqualification, the man.
Oh! Dirty Deeds by Dean Ambrose on AJ Styles!
The man who has more victories over AJ Styles than John Cena, James Ellsworth.
A couple months down the line, SmackDown comes along. AJ Styles is looking for an opponent for the WWE Championship. He handpicks you. You come out. The first match you have is a non-title match. How do you feel about working with guys like AJ Styles and Dean Ambrose, now known as Jon Moxley in AEW?
Well, at first I was nervous, scared to wrestle with AJ because I didn't know I was wrestling him until that day because I had so much respect for him, and I, to this day, feel like he's the best wrestler in the world right now. And I was just so scared. But as time went on, I worked with him a few times. He made me feel comfortable and confident in my ability to be in the ring with him, and I love that guy, and I will always owe a lot to him because he really, really made James Ellsworth. AJ Styles made James Ellsworth. I'll say that.
Yeah, and obviously the next week, you would go on WWE Championship match. You have Dean Ambrose as a special enforcer. I believe it was during that match. It was a very scary situation. Styles sets you up for the Styles Clash, and it looks like he almost dropped you on your neck, but it looks like he saved you, or you made the save, or.
No, that was the first match, the non-title match, and yeah, that was just like, if you look on YouTube, look up 7 deadliest Styles clashes, you'll see Frankie Kazarian, Roderick Strong, Corey Graves, Steven Richards, and a number of others doing the same thing. When you're a wrestler and you go to wrestling school, you're taught to tuck your chin and all that. So I was just a reaction that I would have to every move, and I took it numerous times afterward. Never happened again, so that was my fault. But stuff happens, and luckily he saved my life, so we're good to go.
I tell you, in the modern era, I will admit this. You probably threw one of the best super kicks of this decade.
Well, it's because it meant something when I did it. Like, I almost beat them. Like, now guys get super kicked and they don't even go for a pinfall afterwards. Like, it's a shame because super kick, Shawn Michaels, when he did it, it was one of the greatest finishers ever. And he won with it 9 times out of 10. So when I did it, man, like, I'd either win or I'd get a 2.5 count, and it meant something. And you can do that with any move. The RKO, when Randy Orton does the RKO, it means something because 9 times out of 10 he beats you with it.
Right.
There's guys doing diamond cutters or whatever you want to call it on other matches and other shows and stuff, and nobody's beating anybody with it, so it don't mean anything. But Randy Orton has the most popular finish in wrestling because he protects it, and he doesn't let everybody kick out of it, and it means something when he hits it.
Right. It's so crazy now. We're going through a transition of wrestling where back in the day, if you did like a superplex like Bob Orton, or if you perform some type of like arm wrench move, it's like back in the day, you would get a pinfall over it. But nowadays, I feel like a lot of these guys oversell the moves, like super kicks, pile drivers, Canadian destroyers, which, back in the day, you only knew one person who was able to do that, and that was Petey Williams. But nowadays, I feel like those types of moves are being so overutilized and overused. Like, what do you think about moves like that being overused and not as like a proper finish like back in the day?
Oh, it's sad. It makes wrestling look so bush league and fake, and I hate the word fake, but phony. Like, when you're getting dropped on your head in the ring and you're getting right back up and you're moving around okay afterwards, that makes the ring look like it doesn't hurt. The ring hurts for real. And there's people out there working very hard to make the ring look like it doesn't hurt. And that really bothers me. And, less people are watching wrestling now than ever. And I think that has a lot to do with it, where it just looks like it doesn't hurt. So I think people look at it and go, bull crap, he got right up. Really, that's my opinion. And, I mean, the numbers don't lie. Less people are watching wrestling right now than ever. So,
So going further down the line, you were a manager for the SmackDown Survivor Series team in 2016. Going further down more, you got placed in like a manager type role when you started pairing up with Carmella. Whose decision was that for you guys to pair up? Was that something that you initially shot at the creative team, or was that something that maybe Vince brought up?
It was Carmella's idea, actually, and she brought it to Vince, and Vince just loved it and wanted it done right away. Like, you wanted, I went right from TLC to turning on Ambrose to like a week later being with Carmella. It was done. He loved the idea so much. It was done so quick. And Carmella and I winded up being together from December of 2016 to our last time on TV together was July of 2018. It was just crazy for like that type of role. And as much TV time as we did, they got a lot out of it, and it was cool, and it helped make Carmella, and that was the point. Before she had me. She didn't win any titles, wasn't really doing much. And then when she got paired with me, she became the Women's Money in the Bank winner. She became Women's Champion, and the rest is history. She's still doing really good, and she's still there, and I'm glad she's having a terrific run that she's having.
Now, being a part of that manager role, sort of say, was that something that you would always consider or always think about? Like, hey, maybe a manager role wouldn't be so bad further down the line?
Well, yeah, because I'm 36 now and I'm getting older, and for me, I'm 5'8", 170 pounds, and I can wrestle. So if you put me in that managerial role, and then every now and then when the heat gets built up, I have to wrestle, that's perfect, because I'm not going to be boring as a wrestler. When I do wrestle, people will be interested in it because I'm not wrestling all the time, and people might, if I'm pissing off the right person, for weeks at a time, and then finally that person gets their hands on me and gets to have a match with me. That's magic, man. My next goal in wrestling is to be the next Bobby the Brain Heenan or Jim Cornette or Jimmy Hart, or that's my next goal. Honestly, yeah, I could definitely see myself doing that.
Now, would that be something that you would want to look forward to? Maybe if WWE gave you that opportunity and called you back, like, hey, we want to put you in a manager type role. Who would be some guys on today's roster that you think you can manage?
Man, that's a good question. I always think about who needs it, and I would, because I was with Carmella. If I did it again, I'd like to do it with a girl, a guy, come back and be in the manager role with the guy. I always thought it'd be funny if they, AJ has the bodyguard thing now. If they would have brought me back to be you remember Shannon Moore and Matt Hardy when they were together. If I came back, it was like that with AJ Styles. I think that'd be hilarious. We have a history. And he brings me back to be his little protege or just heater or whatever it is. And I don't know. So him, he doesn't really need it. But I go back to needing it. It's just somebody that has potential that they don't do much with. And Mojo Riley, I know him personally. He has a lot of potential. They do nothing with him. And what you see on TV is not him. So it's something like that where he's a big guy and I'd be a small little guy talking smack for him, and then he destroys people. That'd be a cool thing. I Shinsuke, I always joked around with him he's Mr. Miyagi and I'm Daniel's son. Something like that with him might be cool. I promise you, whoever they put me with, I could make it work. I am confident in that for sure.
Hey, there we go. Definitely something to look forward to in the future. Going down the line, obviously you were released later on by the WWE. Was that just because they had nothing more for you?
I think, I don't know. Until this day, I can't get a clear answer. Nobody really. I think it's because Carmella had the Money in the Bank contract, and they were like, well, she doesn't need him right now, so we'll bring him back when she does need him. And what they did. They brought me back because she was going to the feud with Asuka. They're like, well, we don't want her to lose the title right now, so how the hell is she going to beat Asuka 2 pay-per-views in a row? Oh, bring back James. He'll help her. That's, so I think that's what it is. They just needed me for her when, and then now that that's over with Carmella, whatever happens in the future. I didn't go through the Performance Center NXT. They have time and money invested in people that did. So they always take care of those people first because that's who they have the time and money invested in. Me, I wasn't a, I didn't come from their system. I wasn't a product of their system. So, obviously they're really going to give me Team V time if they feel like I really need it. And when they do, it'll probably be with somebody from NXT in the Performance Center that they need to, help with. And they think I'm the guy that could help them. So.
Yeah, there you go. Going further down, you ended up making an appearance for Championship Wrestling in Florida. You ended up challenging Nick Aldis for the NWA World Heavyweight title. Look at you. You're a main event guy. Challenging for the WWE title, challenge for the NWA title. What solidifies the difference between you challenging for the WWE title between the NWA title, which I find more prestigious, knowing that that's a belt that's practically never changed?
Yeah, it's a beautiful title. I love the way that title looks, the NWA World's title. But for me, it came full circle. Like I said at the beginning of this interview, I was a WWF and a NWA fan growing up from a very young age. And for me to sit here at 36 years old and say I've wrestled for the WWE title and the NWA World's title is like, wow, it gives me chills just thinking about that I accomplished that. And, for me, it's just equally as important because I grew up watching both products and loved both products. So for me personally, it meant so much to do both. I mean, when I wrestled AJ Styles for the world titles in front of 10,000 people, and 2.6 million people watching at home, which they would love to get a 2.6 million rating now, but they're not. And when I wrestled for the NWA title, if you watch the promo I did with Nick Aldis, that's one of my favorite promos I've ever done. And, everything I was saying was real. And Nick Aldis, I think, is the most underrated he's the NWA World Champion, so it's hard to say the word underrated, but he should be in, with the two top companies, the way everybody looks at it, WWE number 1, AEW number 2. How he's not in either one of those is beyond me. I think he loves NWA, and he's the poster guy there, and as he should be. But he's amazing, and I really, really love to be in the ring with him, and hopefully could do it again someday because I have a lot of respect for him. But, man, being on SmackDown, main event television match with the best wrestler in the world, the referees holding the title up and the crowd's chanting your name, that's what dreams are made of. That was my best moment.
Hey, and you know what? Nothing wrong with following your dreams. Obviously, if you follow your dreams, things will happen. You will see progress. So, going down to my last two questions here. What made you decide to make a intergender championship?
Well, it's just for fun, man. When I left WWE the first time, the last thing I did was terrorize the women's division, steal the Money in the Bank contract, had a match with Becky Lynch on SmackDown, was making fun of them all over Twitter and everything. So I was like, man, what if I made an intergender title and travel the world with it and be like Andy Kaufman and wrestle girls? And it went well, man. I had a good year of doing that. I really did. I wrestled, girls that are on TV now, Penelope Ford, Shotzi Blackheart, Tessa Blanchard, Thunder Rosa, who I love, Emma, who's now Neil Dashwood, just to name a few. And it was just awesome, man. That was cool. I'll never bring it back because, things only last so long. That ran its course. And I want to find the next thing the next thing I need to do. So I did a really good job with that. We had a lot of fun with that. I eventually lost it to Priscilla Kelly, who now has it. And I think they use it on Grimm's Toy Show now. The YouTube channel, GTS. It's really fun. So you can still see the intergender title defended on there.
All right, which leads me to my final question for you, Mr. Ellsworth. What's next for James Ellsworth?
Well, right now I'm just wrestling on the independents. It's, we're in a pandemic. Did I say it right that time? Because I always say pandemic.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to keep working hard, man. And again, if I keep working hard and keep doing my thing, somebody will eventually notice.
So I think sooner down the line, I definitely like to see you make another appearance for WWE. Maybe even NXT, because they have a lot of great talent going on down there, and I think you could really help guys, somewhat help develop their craft, especially for guys down there like Leon Ruff, who is the recent NXT North American champion. You look at his structure. The belt literally fell off his waist. I was like, whoa.
It's funny. I'll see people compare us, but we're a lot different. He's very athletic, and he's kind of cut off like me. I just look like the everyday dude. He's good, man. He good wrestler, and me, I'm just I'm an entertainer first and foremost. So that's where I differ from a lot of these guys. These guys are good wrestlers, but I'm a good entertainer. I'm not a bad wrestler. I can get in there and wrestle, but that's not what the James Ellsworth character calls for ultimately.
All right. So let's wrap things up here for the Pro Wrestle Zone podcast. Is there anything that you want to plug in? Anything that you want to advertise or promote here?
Yeah, real quick. You follow me on Twitter at Real Ellsworth, on Instagram at James Ellsworth Wrestling. Cameo, search James Ellsworth. I'm pretty cheap, and I get them done quick. And then check out GoFundMe.com and look up Gilbert and help the man out.
All right, sounds good. And obviously, when it comes to us, you can find us on the Pro Wrestle Zone podcast. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on any forms of social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And you can find us on all streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, iHeart. But if you guys want to look for me, you guys can look for Dan the Beast 94 on YouTube. So be sure to hit that subscribe button, especially if you're going to be watching my channel and you're not subscribed. What are you doing? Hit that button. And be sure to subscribe to the Pro Wrestle Zone podcast. Check out our latest episode. We had Rick and Andy conducting an interview with Ring of Honor superstar Rhett Titus. So be sure to check out that episode. And until next time, guys, y'all have a good night.
All right.